All right, let's dive right into this explainer and explore a seriously fascinating new framework for understanding the converging crises of our modern world. We usually look at things like ecological breakdown, crushing debt distress, and massive public health vulnerabilities as totally separate problems, right? But what if they aren't? What if they're actually all just symptoms of one underlying civilizational disorder? Today, we're unpacking a paradigm-shifting concept that completely reevaluates how we measure value, wealth, and stability.
You know, the ancient myth of King Midas, right? He asked for the power to turn everything he touched into gold. And at first, it seemed like the ultimate blessing, just limitless wealth. But what if that ancient story isn't just a fable about greed, but a profound civilizational warning for us today? Think about it. When Midas touched his food, his drink, and even his own family, he realized the horrific truth. A value system that loses the ability to distinguish between a living, breathing reality and a cold, lifeless asset is literally a fatal one. That myth, it's kind of our current reality.
Which brings us to this powerful diagnostic tool called the Midas Trap. It's defined as the civilizational tendency to convert living realities into monetizable claims until life itself becomes completely subordinated to the preservation of financial value. To put it simply, it's like valuing the receipt more than the actual item you just bought. We've reached this weird condition where we reliably protect financial abstractions, like debt contracts and asset prices, way more fiercely than the actual living conditions those systems were originally meant to serve.
We're pulling all of this from a brilliant May 2026 white paper by Dr. Bichara Sahali titled Beyond the Midas Trap. This paper essentially acts as an academic stress test for our global systems. It meticulously maps out exactly how this trap operates across our monetary, legal, and ecological architecture. And more importantly, it outlines a really compelling blueprint for how we might actually escape it. So let's dig into the details. Section 1, the modern trap. Let's unpack what the paper calls life-blind value. When we look at our financial systems, we have to start asking some fundamental, piercing questions. For instance, who actually gets to allocate the credit in our society? We usually just think of money as something we earn or spend day to day, but at a macro level, the creation and allocation of credit is the ultimate filter. It's what decides which futures get funded, which communities get to grow, and which ones are just left to wither. And here's the flip side. When those financial systems are stressed or damage is done, who is forced to absorb the real-world costs? This is a massive question. When an ecosystem is degraded for short-term profit or a neighborhood gets gentrified into complete unaffordability, those human and environmental costs don't just magically disappear. They get pushed off the official balance sheet. Ultimately, they're absorbed by families, local communities, and the environment itself. The system profits, but the ground-level reality pays the price. At the very root of this disconnect is what the author calls life-blind value. This happens when price, return, and growth become more fiercely protected than life itself. It's a system that is incredibly intelligent within a very, very narrow field. It can calculate complex risk or engineer derivatives absolutely flawlessly. But it's completely blind to whether the whole arrangement is protecting or destroying the actual conditions of life. It literally knows the price of everything, but the life value of nothing. This creates a fundamental contrast in how we view progress, drawing on the work of philosopher John McMurtry. On one side, we have the money value sequence, where money is advanced simply to become more money. Success is judged purely by monetary increase, regardless of the social cost. On the other side is the life value sequence, where life seeks the means of life to create expanded, flourishing capacity. The trap basically snaps shut on us when the money sequence completely overrides the life sequence. Moving on to Section 2, the Midas sequence, and the actual mechanics of the trap. This specifically maps out what the author calls the journey of enclosure. It's so crucial to understand this because it's not just some abstract theory. It's a highly repeatable, step-by-step process that is unfolding across almost every single sector of our modern global economy. And honestly, once you see the pattern, you can't unsee. To break that journey down, there are 5 core steps to the Midas sequence. First, you start with a living reality on the life ground, something tangible like land, water, or even human attention. Second, that reality is converted into an asset that can be priced and traded. Third, it becomes a legal claim. Fourth, that claim is optimized to extract a recurring yield. And finally, step 5, that yield ultimately generates sovereign power, which is then used to lobby and change laws to protect those exact same claims. You see this happening everywhere in your daily life. Think about homes. They're fundamentally meant for human shelter, right? But they increasingly become speculative assets traded by massive funds.
Health and care are subordinated to maximizing complex billing streams. Nature, instead of being stewarded, just becomes a natural capital offset to balance out a corporate ledger. And even your own personal attention is monetized as platform data to sell advertising. The original, living purpose just becomes totally secondary to the financial claim built on top of it.
Section 3, Rethinking Global Stability. Let's rethink what a stable system actually means. We really need to contrast conventional financial stability with what the author calls life-coherent financial stability. Conventional stability asks, are the major banks solvent? Are markets highly liquid? Is inflation controlled? But here's the catch. You can have all of those things operating perfectly while households are going bankrupt, ecosystems are collapsing, and public trust is just disintegrating. Life-coherent stability asks a much deeper, much more important question. Does the financial system actually preserve and expand the life capacity of our communities? We essentially have to redefine stability entirely. We need to shift from merely protecting financial claims, what we could call claim stability, to actually protecting the continuity of life, or life-ground stability. The paper makes a really tough point here. Rescuing banks and stabilizing asset prices means absolutely nothing if the very foundation of society is crumbling underneath them. Stability at the top is a total illusion if the bottom is falling out. So what does a real ground-level stability actually look like? We're talking about having actual household margin, meaning families aren't just constantly drowning in debt to survive. It means real shelter security, a strong capacity for societal care, vibrant public health, ecosystems that can actually regenerate, and high social trust. Think about your own community for a second. If an economy is growing its GDP, but families are constantly stressed and local ecosystems are degrading, it isn't actually stable. It's just delaying a collapse. Section 4, Escaping the Trap. How do we restore money to life service? The paper argues we need a total reset on what we consider realistic. We're constantly told that protecting markets and generating endless financial growth is the only realistic way to run a modern world. But is it? True realism isn't just blind submission to financial power. It's recognizing that biological and social viability absolutely has to come first. If a financial system destroys its host, it isn't realistic at all. It's deeply, fundamentally irrational. And it really all boils down to this one profound idea. Claims are legitimate only within the prior claims of life. Financial obligations, debts, and property rights are important tools for sure, but they only hold legitimacy if they respect the fundamental prior needs of living beings, like water, food, shelter, and a livable planet. The second a financial claim starts destroying those foundational elements, it loses its right to exist. To actually get there, the author outlines some very actionable pathways to rewire the system. This includes pushing for total monetary transparency, so we as citizens actually understand how money is created and allocated. It means deliberately guiding credit toward expanding real-life capacity rather than just fueling speculative asset bubbles. It involves de-rentierization, basically stopping extractive toll gates on essential human goods. It also requires creating systematic debt relief pathways and building robust public and community banking systems that genuinely serve local needs over distant yields. I'm going to leave you with this one profound diagnostic question to ask of any institution, policy, or financial system you encounter from now on. Does this claim serve life, or has life been reorganized to serve the claim? Once you start asking this, you're going to see the Midas Trap everywhere. But more importantly, you'll start seeing exactly how we can build our way out of it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the framework.